That night in the motel was supposed to be forgettable. One uncomfortable bed, one broken down car, a stopover on the way to my husband, but I didn't forget it. I couldn't, because what happened between me and Gary, my stepson, wasn't about anything physical. It was about something deeper and much more dangerous. I woke up sometime after midnight. The room was dark except for the pale orange light bleeding in from the parking lot outside. The fan in the ceiling creaked faintly as it rotated. Beside me, Gary was lying still, breathing slow and deep, but I was wide awake, my thoughts spinning. I turned slightly and looked at him. He'd kicked off the sheet, one arm sprawled above his head. His jawline caught the light. His hair, still damp from his shower, curled at the ends. He looked peaceful, unbothered, and I hated that it made me feel something. What was wrong with me? I was 47, married, his stepmother, and yet, the loneliness I'd been burying for months was clawing its way to the surface. It had started long before tonight, long before Gary and I got stuck together on this unexpected detour. It started when Logan, my husband, stopped seeing me, stopped hearing me, stopped caring. I wasn't stupid. I knew how this looked, how it would sound if I told anyone, but this wasn't about lust. This was about being noticed, being acknowledged, being appreciated. Gary, in all his immature, teasing, maddening ways, made me feel visible, not as a mom, not as someone's wife, but as me. I turned away and stared at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come, and I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. I thought I was being quiet, but suddenly I heard Gary's voice beside me. "You okay?" I jumped slightly. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said, turning toward me. "You've been tossing for a while." "I'm fine," I replied quickly. "Just can't sleep." There was silence for a few seconds. Then he said, "Me neither." I glanced at him. He was still lying on his side, watching me. "This motel sucks," he said, trying to lighten the mood. I let out a dry laugh. Understatement of the year. Another pause. Then he asked, more softly, "Are you nervous about seeing Dad?" That question caught me off guard. I hesitated. "Not nervous," I said slowly. "More unsure." He tilted his head. "You were really excited this morning." I nodded. I was, but now, I don't know. Logan and I stopped. "It's complicated." Gary didn't say anything, just kept looking at me with those steady, thoughtful eyes. "He hasn't really been around," I admitted. "Not just physically, emotionally. He's somewhere else." Gary nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "I've noticed that too." Something about the way he said it made me feel seen, not judged, not pitied, just understood. "You ever feel like you're yelling into a void?" I asked quietly. "Like no matter how loud you scream, no one hears you?" Gary looked at me, expression unreadable. "Yeah," he said. "All the time." The silence that followed felt heavy, not awkward, just thick with unspoken thoughts. "I used to think I'd always be enough for him," I murmured. "That being loyal, kind, consistent, it would mean something. But I think I became invisible." Gary sat up a little, resting on one elbow. "Maybe he just forgot what he had." I looked at him. He held my gaze. "I haven't," he added. "I see it." That hit something deep. I felt tears welling up but blinked them away quickly. "Gary," I whispered, but my voice broke. "I didn't mean anything by that," he said quickly. I've seen you try. You're always the one holding things together. For everyone." I nodded slowly. "And now I'm here, lying next to my husband's son, venting like a lunatic." "You're not a lunatic," he said. "You're a human being. You deserve to be heard." For a long while, we just sat in silence again. Then he said, "Want to go outside for a bit? Get some air?" It was past a.m., but the idea of fresh air felt like a lifeline. "Yeah," I said. We stepped out into the parking lot. The air was warm, sticky with humidity. The motel was quiet, only a few cars scattered across the lot. We sat on the curb for a few minutes. We just looked up at the sky. "Do you think some people are just meant to stay unhappy?" I asked, surprising myself. Gary looked over at me. "No," he said. But I think some people forget they have a choice. I turned my face toward him. He met my eyes, and something passed between us, a silent exchange of vulnerability. You're not alone, Carmen, he said quietly. I feel like I am. You're not, he repeated, firmer this time, the way he said my name. It made me feel grounded. It had been years since Logan called me that with any warmth. Years since I felt like someone meant it when they looked at me, back in the room. I didn't even think twice before sitting back on the bed beside him. I looked over. Gary smiled faintly, then leaned back. I never thought this trip would turn out like this, he said. I gave a soft chuckle. Me either. I'm glad we talked though, he added. I nodded. Me too. Then he turned toward me again, his expression more serious now. Carmen, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you happy? I blinked. It was such a simple question, and yet I had no idea how to answer it. I don't know, I said honestly. I haven't asked myself that in a long time. Gary sat up slightly, legs crossed. Can I say something without you getting upset? I looked at him cautiously. Okay. I think you've been holding onto something that stopped giving back a long time ago. He didn't mean it cruelly. He said it like someone who cared. And maybe that's why it hurt. I made vows, I whispered. Vows mean nothing if one person breaks them silently, he said. Your loyalty is admirable, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your happiness. There was a weight in the air again, but this time, it wasn't sadness. It was clarity. You sound older than you are, I said. He grinned. Maybe I've had to be. We stayed up for hours, talking. Not about us. Not about anything forbidden, but about life. About people. About the things we don't say out loud, the regrets, the fears, the hopes we bury. When I finally fell asleep, it was just before sunrise. The next morning, we didn't speak much. Gary called a mechanic. They came and towed the car. While we waited, I stood outside the motel, watching the lights stretch across the sky. Gary joined me, sipping cheap motel coffee. So, he said, still going to surprise Dad? I paused, then shook my head. No, I said quietly. I think the surprise would be mine, and not a good one. Gary didn't ask questions. He just nodded. He understood. As we drove into the city, I realized something important. I didn't cross a line that night, but emotionally, I'd already wandered too close to it months ago, not because of Gary, but because I was desperate to feel something again. Logan hadn't cheated, not physically, but he had abandoned me in every other way, and that emptiness, that's what had pulled me toward a moment I never expected. By the time we dropped off the car and headed home, things between me and Gary felt quieter, but not uncomfortable, just changed. He'd seen a part of me I hadn't shown anyone in years, and I'd seen a version of him that wasn't just Logan's son. He was his own man, thoughtful, grounded, kind. That night in the motel didn't break anything. It just cracked open the truth I'd been hiding from myself. And sometimes, it takes being trapped in a tiny, sweltering room with someone who sees you, really sees you, to finally wake up.